All right, here we go. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spring 2025 Student Group Leadership Summit. We're really excited to have you here with us today and welcome you back for hopefully what's going to be an excellent semester here at Towson University. My name is Chris Rendosh. I'm the coordinator for student organizations. And if you're here today, means you're a member or most likely a leader of one of our student organizations on campus. I just want to personally say thank you for being with us today. We hope that today is going to be an opportunity for you to learn a whole lot of information that's going to be helpful to you and your journey as a student leader, no matter whether you're a brand new student leader or one who's been here for multiple times. Just by a show of, we're going to do a show in chat for me. If this is your first Student Group Leadership Summit that you're attending, can you please put a number 1 into the chat? Just let's see who we got here that's new. Okay, so we have a lot of new leaders. I see a 2. I think somebody's been here before because they know what's coming next. All right, so there's a lot of new people. Okay, great. So first off, welcome. We're really excited to have you today. There's gonna be a whole bunch of sessions that I think might be directly help you out in starting your journey as a leader here on Towson University's campus. So really excited to have all of our new people. If you are a returning leader and you've been to a Student Group Leadership Summit in the past, hit me with a 2 in the chat. Let's see. Here's our returners. Okay. You can see we have a lot of 2s as well. So welcome to all of our returners. I hope you've had a great break. It's great to have so many of you back here. Honestly, this is always one of my favorite events of the year, is getting to interact with you guys and get you set up for a good start to the semester. So today should be very fun. And I'll go through the agenda in a little bit, where you'll get to see how today is going to function, especially for those of you that maybe this is your first time here for those number 1s. We'll go over what today is going to feel like for you all. For those of you that have been here before, you guys will have a lot of options, but there are going to be some new options for those of you that put the 2s. All right, I'm going to do a couple of quick introductions. I think most of you know me, but I'm the coordinator of student organizations here at Towson. My name's Chris. I've been doing this for a long time, but it's not just me. I actually work with a pretty talented team that does all of our student organization support. So the 4 people that are listed on this slide, you're going to get to meet at least, hopefully, 3 of them. Emirachi, who's our director of student orgs, she is traveling right now, so I don't believe she'll be able to join us. But Abby, and then Abby, if you guys want to introduce yourselves very quickly.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby. I'm the GA for Student Orgs, and I'll be helping a lot behind the scenes with emails and just kind of keeping track of everything. So be on the lookout and read emails from me. I promise they're important.
All right. And then I don't know, Abby Hurley, did you make it on the call? She said she was going to make it, but
Hey,
oh, there you
hi.
go. Go ahead.
Hi everyone. I'm driving right now, so that's why my camera isn't on. But I'm Abby. If y'all ever need any help, feel free to reach out. My email is usually in the newsletters and in any emails that you get. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. And yeah, you'll see a number of events specifically Amarachi and Abby Hurley are planning throughout the semester. Our Student Org Monday series, they help us out with a lot with our Tech Org Tuesdays. So yes, great to have them here to support our student groups. You'll also get to meet a whole bunch of other folks from the student activities staff throughout this presentation and throughout our breakout sessions. So there's a whole lot of people that are here to support student orgs. But specifically, if you guys are having questions about something student organization related and you need someone to reach out to because you're just not sure who would the best person be to contact, you can really contact any of the 4 people on this slide, and we'll be here to kind of support you through whatever you need. Okay? All right, a little bit about today's training. So first things first, today's training is going to use multiple Zoom rooms. So you should have received an email from me or the president of your organization that had a whole list of links. This session that we're in right now, we call this the main session. We're going to begin today here and we will end the day here in this specific Zoom room. There is a session link on Involved It to you, or a event page that has all of the links to all the other sessions. I'm going to talk about this a little bit about when I'm going over the agenda. Abby, if you want to find the link for it and put it into the chat for people, that event page that Abby just posted, that has all of the links that you'll need for today. So you will be in the main session to begin and end, but in the middle, it's kind of like choose your own adventure. You're going to get to pick where you go. So use that page or the emailed links. The email Word document I sent you should have all the session descriptions for all the other things that are happening today. If you are having trouble getting somewhere or having any sort of technical difficulties, Abby, who was recently just saying, she's waving right now, you can please private message her, or Kelly, if you want to say hi real quick and just wave so people can get you to the top.
Hey, everybody.
Kelly's our assistant director of leadership, works closely with me and Abby in all things student orgs. If you want to privately message either of them, like, hey, I'm having trouble, I lost this link, I can't get into this room, do you know XYZ? I will actively be monitoring chat, but I probably can't respond to everything while we're actually presenting. So they'll be helping you get things sorted out. So if you're having trouble, Kelly or Abby are the people to go to. The third thing, everybody's done a great job of this, and I think you all know this by now, but please try to keep yourself muted unless you're invited to speak. We're trying to limit the background noise. Right now, there's 217 people on the Zoom call, so I want to make sure everybody can hear. There will be portions, even in this main session, where you guys might have the opportunity to ask some questions and participate. So when asked, obviously you can unmute yourself, but otherwise, please keep yourself muted. Otherwise, Abby is on detail of find whoever's mics or muted, not muted, and mute them. We invite you to keep your camera on and be engaged throughout the event, especially because we have some guests that are here today, and many of them probably will not have seen your guys' faces. So if you're able to and in a space where you can have your camera on, please try to keep your camera on so people can see your reactions and get to know you. We will record all sessions. That's why making sure I remembered. We got the record going. So, in terms of your own note-taking style, it is up to you if it helps you to take notes, feel free. I will say that all the PowerPoints, including this one that I'm showing right now, we will send out after the summit. So intentionally, at least for myself, I put more information on a lot of the slides that I might not even go over, like step-by-step instructions for you, so that if you need to go back and access like how to do that, it'll all be in the PowerPoint, but don't feel like you need to, if you're trying to write everything down, don't feel like you need to, because you will get access to this information. All the recordings will be put into a playlist and they'll be made available on YouTube. That'll probably take at least a week or so for us to get that done. So hopefully by the involvement fair shortly thereafter, those should be up for you. All right, and then last but not least, please feel free to be active in the chat. If you have questions, comments, don't hesitate to throw them out. I'll at least try to do my best to respond to them in real time when possible. We do have a lot of information to get through, but I'm confident, like with what we have on the schedule today, there's things you want to know about. I also know that Kelly, Shamaya, Abby, they also do a great job of sometimes just responding directly to your questions. So if something that's going on, you're not sure about it, feel free to put it into the chat. Okay. And with that, we are ready to get started. And I'm very excited for this first individual who who I invited to come talk with us today. His name is Aaron Bain. He is the former president and a founding member of a student organization that doesn't exist anymore. It's called the Towson Trills. And I think Aaron has a very unique perspective of the impact of what your student organization experience can have both on yourself, members, and I wanted him to come here and talk with you all today so you can get a little bit of perspective. I didn't ask you guys to do this, but if you're a graduating senior, can you put an S in the chat if you think this is your last semester as president of your group? Oh man, so many graduating seniors. Okay, so for all of our graduating seniors, I'm hoping that some of his notes that he's going to talk about today might ring true to you, and you think how to make the most of this last semester you have with your organization to leave the biggest impact possible and the best connections for yourself and your members going forward. I will say, if you didn't type an S in the chat, I think Aaron's words will even speak more true because you have more time. So the things that Aaron was able to accomplish in his time here as a TU student leader, you can be thinking about how do you want to make sure that you leave the biggest impact on your student organization and your student members of your group. And I mentioned Towson Trills doesn't exist anymore. It's not even here as a student group. But that doesn't mean that the impact that this group has not had at the time, it continues to still, I won't spoil it. I'll let Aaron talk about it. Aaron, if you want to come on real quick and introduce yourself. Last thing before I let Aaron just give a brief introduction of himself. You guys will be given the opportunity to ask some questions, Q&A in the chat. So if you're thinking about questions at the end, I'll ask. If you have questions, feel free to drop them at the end. But I'm going to let Aaron go through and just give a short overview of who he is first.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great, man.
Let's go. What's up, everybody? How you doing? I'm Aaron Bain. It's a pleasure to be here. It's really weird being here digitally. I did 4+ of these in person back when I went to Towson. So it's definitely weird to be here digitally, but I'm excited to be back. A little about me, as Chris mentioned, I was the founder and former president of Towson Trills Acapella, which is now a business, and I'm the manager and owner of the Trills LLC. So I also did a few other student orgs while at Towson, so I was a member of Original Blend Acapella and also the Towson Investment Group for a while. I am a 2019 graduate. I did my bachelor's in economics. I'm also a 2020 graduate from Berklee College of Music with a master's in music business. And I currently live in Los Angeles, California. So it's 3 hours behind right now, but I'm awake, happy to be here, and hope to put some of my knowledge on you guys and hope we can absorb some stuff. So
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Sorry. I want to make sure I'm not sharing so people can actually see you a little bit better. They don't need to see your name anymore. They know who you are. All right. So, Aaron, why don't you start by, I want you to give us a little bit of context about the Towson Trills. So how did the Towson Trills get started? What was your experience like founding a club? How did this whole thing come to be? Like, what led you to becoming a student leader?
yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm a musician. I've done music my whole life. And I've been beatboxing for 15+ years, very long time. And kind of going into college, I knew I wanted to do a cappella music. Like that was a huge passion of mine. But I wanted to do it at a competitive level, and I wanted to do it like with a small, unique group of people, which is nothing that Towson had at the time. So kind of going into college, I knew that's something I wanted to do, and I knew it didn't exist. So I was like, I can A, go with what's existing there, or B, create something of my own. So over the first week of my freshman year, which is 2015, almost 10 years ago, don't want to say it, but unfortunately. So the first week, all those orientation events you have essentially the first 2 weeks of school, it's like, the things in the dorms, things at like pause, things and all of those events is actually how my group, the Trills, formed. So like 3 days into school, I went to the open mic night that they had at pause. And I was like, you know what, I need to start marketing myself, as a musician, as an artist who wants to meet other people. And I actually met my coworker Leroy, who I've been, friends with for 10 years at this point. And we essentially helped form the Trills based on those people we met that day. And then the other sort of half of our group met while going on a bus ride to Target as one of the orientation events. So sort of within a first week of college, bright-eyed freshmen, didn't know what the heck's going on. We had a little like 6-person group. We're like, hey, we want to do this kind of music. We don't exist as an actual unit, but like we met in a dorm room and started singing some songs, kind of put one song together. We're like, hey, this doesn't sound terrible, like we're not crap, let's keep making music. And so pretty soon after was the homecoming talent show, which was our first performance as a band, the 2015 homecoming talent show. And we knew one song, we went up and performed it, and we were lucky enough to win that event. So us as a little unit, we're like, oh, this is something that could actually be a legit thing on campus. We could actually make great music, have a good time. And so we soon after, started looking at what it would take to become an actual student group. Obviously, when you want to become a student group, there is some paperwork involved, some legwork. So we pretty much quickly went through all of that, found an advisor, which was definitely really awkward because we knew the teachers for like, 2 months. And we had to be like, hey, can you advise us even though you don't know who we are? And our advisor stayed with us for 4 years. So, don't knock it. We knocked out the paperwork super quickly, became a student organization on campus. And then very soon thereafter, we realized, hey, if we want to do anything as a student organization, we actually need to complete Tiger Stripes. So that was our next sort of goal as a club, was to get ourselves established, in a full year, learn repertoire, and then actually be able to do things on campus. So yeah, I think that's a good overview there, Chris.
Awesome. So your one song that you guys sang, it was a Radioactive by Imagine Dragons, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, because that was like the song, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember you guys doing that. I also remember after taking the very small elevator down after the talent show, you guys were like literally so hyped and jumping, and then you're like, I forget who said it in your group, but they were like, we can't stop here, we have to keep going. And just like for the next steps. And then Aaron's been in my office like literally every other week. I felt like while he was a student, always something for the Trills, looking forward. So awesome. So I was gonna say, so that's a good way to segue of like how you got started. Do you want to talk a little bit about like what your group was able to accomplish while you were still here at TU? Because you didn't just come together and just throw on some shows. You also decided to compete. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we took the first year as kind of a building year, understand who we are, what we wanted to sing, how we wanted to be sort of as a student organization. We got all of our paperwork in order, all of our files in order, so that by our second year, we had the highest level of funding. And by that second year, we were able to actually compete in the ICCA, which I know a lot of the Towson groups do currently, which is awesome. And then essentially we did that 3 years, so my sophomore, junior, and senior year at Towson. And we made it all the way to finals 2 of those years, which is essentially ranked top 10 in the nation for collegiate a cappella groups. So we had a really unique experience where we were able to travel and perform and compete just as a small group of 6 and then 7 vocalists. That really would not have happened if I didn't A, help start a student group, B, continue up with it, and also have our ducks in a row to get relevant funding and our resources from the SGA and from the Student Activities Board. So it's really important to have all those things in order.
Well, one side question, what is the ICCAs for those of us that don't speak a cappella?
It's the International Championship of Collegiate a cappella. So if you've seen Pitch Perfect, it is that competition. So the movie was based on that competition, and we made it to the top 10 groups in our first and third year competing. So very blessed.
Yeah, I do recall as having seen you at some of those competitions that it was quite a big deal for TU at the time too. Like we are literally housing one of the top 10 groups literally in the nation / I don't remember what other countries also compete in it, but you probably do.
Yeah, well, at that time, like it broke like local and national news, which was awesome, and it was like the first time TU had really seen recognition in that regard. So it was a really interesting thing that we'd been able to accomplish quite quickly in being a student group. So definitely really cool.
So through this experience, what did you learn by being a student leader?
So much. I mean, I learned as much in my student group as I did in my major. Just different kinds of skills and different kinds of things that you can utilize in your real life. Because obviously, we all have our majors, but the soft skills are not learned in those majors. Student group teaches you how to be organized, for starters. Because if you don't get your paperwork and your things in on time, you will not have money. And we all need money to do fun things as a student group. So the next thing is communication. I mean, going into the workplace, you realize how important communication is between yourself, between managers, between coworkers, between people junior and senior to you. You have to be able to communicate effectively and clearly to anybody around, above, and below you. And I don't think you really quite understand how to do that when you're just doing your traditional major, unless it's communication, which obviously I'm sure they will be great. But I did economics, so I could crunch numbers and do nothing else. So one other thing I learned past communication is something you guys are probably starting to see, but not really maybe accepting, is just because someone in your organization thinks a role or a job is a good fit for them does not mean it truly is. I know a lot of times when we were going through like our 4 years at Towson, people would like really want to be involved in things, and it would just make it a lot more complicated for everybody involved. And this is where you start to learn how to mentally streamline processes, work items, anything of that nature, to who can really do the best job and the quickest job and who wants to do the job. Like we had someone in my group who really wanted to be kind of working on the logistics side, but they just didn't really have a knack for it, and things took way longer and were not efficient, and like things were like misdone. Like you would have emails going out with like typos and forms going out with typos, and you can really accept like what you're good at and what the people around you are good at, and then pivot off of that, which when you get in the workplace will be a really good way to move up and advance. The next one,
Yeah.
managing expectations and deadlines. if you have a deadline for your student org, I'm sure Chris is a little bit lenient. Who knows? Who knows if they're lenient, but being able to work under pressure with deadlines is really, really important for your post-college experience, especially if you work in a high volume field. Understanding that things have to be completed accurately and quickly is really important. And how I say is you should rather be over-prepared than under-prepared for everything you're doing in your student org. Because if you take that attitude in the workplace, you will advance quite quickly. You'll be very surprised at how people will react towards your work ethic. The next thing that was really cool, I thought, about being a student leader is being actually work through a budget process. Because I don't know about a lot of you, but like I had never even looked at a organization and or a business budget before coming to the university. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, you have to put through this expense list with like expenditures and costs and all of this stuff to present it before a committee and actually get feedback on it. And to me, that's a really good example of something you may have to do in the work environment post-college. You have a project, you have to do it, you have to put it together on a kind of a technical side, you have to present it potentially, and or defend it if it gets rejected. So those sort of skills are like invaluable that you're only learning on the student group side rather than sometimes in your major. So yeah, I think those are the kind of top ones in my head.
Those are great, Aaron. And for the record, I'm not paying to say the thing about deadlines. All the Tire Stripes deadlines are there, and they will be final. Okay.
Good.
It's a good reminder, though. But I do think it's also a good thing to learn early because sometimes in the workplace, like your deadlines are your deadlines, right? So you need to be able to stay on top of it to make sure that you're able to meet them. So, all right, Aaron, I'll have a couple more questions here for you. What impact did your student org involvement have on your college experience and your post-college experience?
It was massive. I mean, so I've always wanted to work in the music industry. So my dad growing up kind of like beat into me that if I wanted to do music, I need to go get a business degree and I need to do music on the side. That was like the mentality. So having this organization first allowed me to have that passion in order to keep my love for music going for 4 years while I was studying economics. I also just think socially and professionally, I would not be anywhere close to as developed as I am now without being in that organization for so long. Um, it gave me something to work towards other than solely academics, which I think is really, really important for the sake of your mental health while going through college and then post-college. I also think it's really good to have it on your resume, which is a very understated, I think, part of being a leadership position in a student org. The amount of interviews I've gone through where I've given examples of scenarios from my student group and how I've, worked through a conflict or found a resolution or planned an event. They eat that up every time because it shows you're doing something non-standard that, only a small percentage of students are doing out of the whole school. I mean, so many people have great grades, but there's only what, point X% of people that are leading student orgs and leading them truly well, where they have deliverable metrics and they have actionable pieces of information that they've accomplished in their time here. And then also, there's another thing where if your student org is not related to your future career path, you can keep that activity going to post-graduation and you will feel yourself a lot more fulfilled in your adult life, doing your job and then also having a great activity outside of work. Because like I said, mental health's important. So, and then lastly, it allows you to return as a mentor to that organization or other people in their shoes down the line. Like, for example, I had no idea I'd be speaking at a summit 10 years after I started the Trills, but here I am. So you'd be surprised how many important aspects it adds to your life until it's gone, really. So don't take it for granted. I think that's my last piece there.
Well, speaking about your student org may only be while you're at Towson, but you definitely got to take some things with you. One of those things really being the community and friendships that you make while you're a student leader here. And really the members of your club are making with each other, right? Aaron, if you want to briefly talk a little bit about obviously you guys all graduated from Towson at this point. This was over a decade ago. What's your relationship like now with the members of the Trills and, how did your student org inform that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, when you go through the 4 years, people in your club change over members. We've had the same exact lineup since 2018, and we've been a super tight-knit group of friends since that date, through today. We're still a band, we still tour, We still play shows, we still do social media, all that. I was actually the best man at Leroy's wedding a few years ago. I've known him for 10 years, which is crazy to think about. And it's just knowing that if I didn't help start this group, I would not know any of these people, any of their friends, any of their families, any of their spouses. It would have been a significantly different social and personal atmosphere just beyond Towson. I just would not have as many friends. I mean, I'll just be honest. I would not have as many friends because it forces you to play nice, for lack of better terms, and it forces you to meet people you can be friends with a very long time because you're usually in a student group with people who have like-minded passions, interests, abilities, etc. So those people tend to stay around and you love to keep them around. So yeah.
I was talking with Aaron about this before you guys all hopped on the summit, and literally tomorrow I'm going to the music and gaming festival with my college friends. And two of the people going, one is a member of a student group that I was the president of, and the other person is my treasurer slash vice president. So it's one of those where it's like, and this is way more than 10 years at this point, Aaron. So like, those are the people that you're going to probably keep forever. So beyond the degrees you're going to earn, your friends are really like the one thing, and those skills Aaron talked about, you have to take with you. All right. Last question I have for you, Aaron, is there any advice you'd want to share with our student leaders?
Absolutely. First of all, take advantage of Chris and his team. It's like you mentioned, I used to bug them so much. I'm sure they were so annoyed with me, but I never missed a deadline and I always knew what needed to happen. And if there was anything I was confused about, I felt very comfortable going and asking the team about what needed to happen, or what needed to get completed in order to make my student organization the best it could be. And I think they have a great group of people going there, and it's just really to your advantage to get to know them and them to get to know you, etc., and just take advantage of what they're doing over there. Um, another piece of advice here, which is probably not something you also hear in your student groups, year is not everything. You might have a president freshman, you might have a senior who is just a general member, you might have a e-board member who's a sophomore, etc. People who have the leadership ability, the drive, and the communication skills will not struggle with making an organization work. And it's something you'll see, obviously, post-college, is the concept of year in school really just disseminates. It doesn't matter. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do and making a positive impact, if people truly have an issue about what year you are in school, whether they think they have, a right to be X position, I just think that's a load of crap, for lack of better terms. And I think you need to put the people in the positions that can do the best job. And I think a lot of people underestimate that. But it's really important to know that you can stand up for yourself if you're a freshman who really, really knows their stuff and really has a great vision and really wants to make a change. You don't have to be a senior or a junior or a sophomore. So that's definitely another piece. Another little item of advice, take advantage of collaboration with other student orgs, especially ones you might not originally think of. Like if you're going to put on an event, maybe look for a group that also needs an event to be put on, that's completely out of left field, and see how you could collaborate. Because now you have your group of, 5, 10, 15, 20 people, and their group of 5, 10, 15, 20 people. That's just more people involved, so it's more people in your network. It's also the people they know and they're connected to. How just by extending kind of a white flag of getting them to join on one thing you're putting on, it can really, really expand your network, expand your friendships, and maybe create something really, really cool. Like when we used to put on concerts at Towson, first of all, we used to invite groups from campus and then off campus, out of state. We also used to partner with on-campus groups. Like one time we had the Tea Society come and join and serve stuff at our event. And that, like, nobody thought of that, but we're like, we love them and we love what they do. So we just collabed with them and it was a great time. And we had a fantastic event. Like, or if you put on an event, have like the EMF club film it and edit it. There's so many things that can happen, that I just feel like was not utilized when I was at Towson, and definitely would love to see that. My last advice for student leaders, keep track of your alumni / have a historian. You don't want to get to 10, 15, 20 years as a group and not know how to reach your alumni. Because if there's alumni that are 10, 15 years out of the school, they have networks. A lot of times they have monetary resources. They have other people who might work in your comparable fields, or just other advice for your organization because they've been through the same thing. The amount of student organizations I saw when I was at Towson that had no contact with their alumni was really sad. And that's one thing I really wanted to change, but didn't really have the ability to while I was there. So I definitely recommend having someone to track your alumni, like a database, a historian, something like that.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. And ironically, I'm using Aaron as a part of the TU network by bringing him back here to literally be a part of this summit today. So, one, Aaron, thank you so much for your time and all of what you shared with our student leaders. I will say you were never a bother coming to my office. I was always a pleasure to see you. And honestly, watching the Trolls journey and even getting to witness some of it was very exciting for me personally. So you guys are a great group of former students / alum that I'm glad to have had the opportunity to work with. Is there anything you want to say about where the Trills are today? Leave people with any information, follow your socials, etc.
Yeah, I mean, we're on all socials at the Trills or the Trills Music. We've had a really unique position after college where we exploded on social media, and we've done very well since then. So we've actually been featured on pretty much every major news outlet. We've performed for 2 NFL teams, the Chiefs and the Ravens. We have 45 million YouTube views, over 350 million TikTok views, over 4 million followers across platforms. We've been featured on the Kelly Clarkson Show as featured creators at VidCon 22 and 23, and several other private and public events across the US over the past couple of years. And all of the success came from the work we put in from our freshman to senior year at Towson. And it's really cool to see, like, we're in mainstream media and mainstream music, but we started literally in, I think it was Tower C, in one of the dorm rooms in Tower C, and now we're doing our thing. So feel free to drop me a message anytime if you have questions. I'm more than happy to chat, etc. Yeah, it's the Trills Music, so the TRILLS Music.
Very cool. All right. So thank you so much, Aaron, for honestly coming back and being a part of this today. I probably have time for maybe one question if somebody does have a question for Aaron and wants to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to let Aaron take on his time. Thanks for typing that out, Abby. Appreciate it. We'll give it 10 seconds, Aaron. If anybody has a question, we'll let them throw it out. But if not, I do want to say just it was great seeing you again, Aaron. Best of luck with everything. And also worth noting, the Trills are actually all living out together in LA right now. So, hopefully, I know all the fires and things that have happened out there, give best to the group, and hopefully everybody's doing all right.
You got it.
All right, Aaron. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here today. If you guys can give a clap. Oh, we got one question. All right, right in the buzzer. How do you network with potential members?
Yeah, so in our organization, we typically don't, but as far as finding new people for your org, go to events that are relevant for your organization. If you Google whatever your organization is and then events happening in a 90-mile or 150-mile radius, I guarantee you will find something. And that goes for after school or in school. You will always be able to find people that have your common interests. It's just about getting them into the right place. So quick answer, because I know we're trying to hop off.
All good, bud. Thank you very much, Aaron. We'll see you.
Take care, guys.
Yep. Please, yes, thank you for the thank yous and the claps for Aaron. Really appreciate him getting on here on West Coast time to join us today. All right, let me reshare here, and we're going to go over the rest of the agenda for today. All right. Give me a thumbs up or a yes in chat if you guys can see the screen okay. All right, I see thumbs up happening, and I got a bunch of yeses. Thank you, guys. All right, so a little bit about today's agenda. So we are right now in this 1 to 2 o'clock session here, going over our keynote and the student org top 10, which will be done in just this moment. After we're done this main session, this is where I mentioned that choose your own adventure will begin. So we have 2 different sets of breakout sessions from 2:05 to 2:55, and then from 3:10 to 4 o'clock. These are times where you can pick where you would like to go. All of the sessions can be found on that QR code / the link that Abby just put into the chat. The big thing I need you to take away from what I'm saying right now is that after you're done going to your breakout sessions 2, you need to come back to this main Zoom room so that we can close out the event, okay? It'll be a quick wrap up starting at 4 o'clock. I do want to just throw this slide in here. So this was actually done at the student organization town hall about the feedback that we got about what topics would you be interested in seeing at the next summit. So if you see the top choice here was fundraising basics, marketing and advertising, recruitment, gaining and maintaining members, building community diversity and inclusion. I put this up here to say, if you look at our breakout sessions, to sneak to the second one, like we literally have down second from the bottom, fundraising for student organizations. The first one, level up your impact strategies for marketing and recruitment. I go back over here, inclusion, accessibility equals belonging. So all of the things that you need for today to have a successful event or that you've asked for, we've done our best to include as topics for you to pick. Couple of keynotes about some of these various sessions. You can read the full descriptions on the event page, so I'm not going to go through these in detail. I do want to note a couple of these. First off, Tiger Stripes, that session I will be doing in this main session. If you were one of the people that put a 1 in the chat, I encourage you to consider coming to that session. You heard Aaron mentioning Tiger Stripes a lot in his talk. This is the incentive program for student organizations. So if you're trying to access future resources as a club, it'd be very helpful for you to know what those resources are. All these breakouts will be recorded though. So, if you choose to go to a different one, it's fine. Event Planning 101, the big thing I want to note about this session is there was a change. I sent out an email early, like maybe 2 hours ago about this. The link has been updated. So if you go to the link on the event page, it's correct. Kelly, who was waving earlier, she is going to be the one presenting and waving again. She's going to be the one who's presenting this session. We had a presenter change last second. So the Zoom link for that one has been updated. So if you want to learn more about planning events, contracting, check out that session. And then the Treasurer's Workshop, I will note here in breakout session 1. And then also in breakout session 2, there are 2 Treasurer's Workshops. You don't need to go to both. It's the same exact presentation. However, attending the Treasurer Workshop is one of the requirements for the student if you want to be a budgeted organization for fall 2025, because they're going to go over all the steps and processes you need to go through in order to request a budget for the spring semester. Or sorry, we're in the spring semester, for the fall semester, and all that's going to happen this spring. So if you're a treasurer here, I'd recommend one of the sessions you go to and one of the breakouts should be the Treasurer Workshop. But it's up to you, but definitely don't go to it twice, but that one is a requirement for groups looking to get funded. All right, last thing I want to note really quickly about the schedule is new this year, based on feedback from last summit, you guys have requested a break. So there will be a break from 2:55 to 3:10, so 15 minutes. You have your options for what you can do during this break. So I'm going to go through them in reverse order, actually, because why not? The first option or the third option here is if you just want to take a break, walk away from your computer, grab a snack, etc., feel free to go ahead and do that. You can just take a normal break. If you'd like to, we are also offering in the wellness session, so this managing stress and embracing well-being session, they will be showing a resource for how to do breathing exercises and guided meditation. There's a Zoom link on the agenda, so you can go to that session if you'd like to get a little extra personal development or some like personal well-being training. Or if you come back to this main session here where we are right now, Abby is going to be doing student organization networking. We will be basically putting you into breakout rooms with a few other student leaders. We won't be leading anything. It'll literally be you guys just getting to talk to one another. So if you're trying to meet some different student leaders, we'll have a space for that to do it. Just come back to this main session, okay? All right, and with that, we're going to hop into the student organization top 10. So this is the 10 things that you really need to know as a student leader. If you were one of the people that put a 2 in the chat, you will have seen this because we do this at every summit, sometimes as a refresher, but if you're a brand new and you put a 1, these are some key things that you really need to know as a student leader. So the first thing, and probably the biggest thing on every student leader's mind, is really about like where can you get meeting spaces on campus and how do you go about doing reservations. So for those that are new to this, there's a lot of words on the screen, so don't worry about it. The whole right side of the screen is basically the step-by-step instructions, how to put it in reservations. But the things you really need to know are really on the left-hand side of the screen. The first is that reservations are done through a system on campus called 25 Live. It's online. There's a link right there. These requests are literally for anything. If you're trying to do events, meetings, weekly meetings, you name it, everything needs to be put in through a reservation that goes to ECS, which stands for Event and Conference Services. So they're the department that manages all of the reservations for student organizations. The big things to note is that space is limited and it's done on a first come, first served basis. So as you know, there's a lot of student organizations on campus and a lot of people trying to have events. So my big suggestion is, put in your request as early as possible. Rooms are open for the entire spring semester already. So if you can put in your events that you have going on in April, because you want to lock down the space before somebody else scoops it up from you. The key thing to note is that organizations can only have 2 representatives be, they're called authorized requesters for your club. So you can only have 2 people place reservations for your organization. So could theoretically be the president and the secretary. If you have an event coordinator, could be an event coordinator, could be the president, vice president. It doesn't necessarily matter, but you guys can pick who do you want to have be those key people. The content on the right is the step-by-step instructions on how to become the authorized requester for your club. So if you need help with this, it's also on the Event and Conference Services website, but essentially this is how you go about becoming authorized to put in your requests. If you have questions and you're new to this, or you want more information about room reservations or event policies, ECS is hosting a session during breakout sessions 2. I'd recommend going to that session so you can ask questions, or if you need more hand-in-hand-on guidance, they will have time for that, okay? All right, second thing, really big thing is contracts. So if you're a student organization that brings outside guests to campus, this could be a DJ, it could be a performer, it could be a makeup artist, could be anytime you're bringing outside individuals to campus, you're going to need to have them fill out a contract. There is a step-by-step procedure document that's available on Involved It to you, but this is what we need to have from your organization for A, for them to come, and B, so that the university, if you're trying to bring a DJ and pay them, we need to be able, the contract is how we pay them. We can't pay them without a contract. And the contracts must be signed and submitted at least 7 days in advance, but preferably earlier if you're able to get them in earlier. Key things I want you to take away from here is never sign a contract yourself. It says it on the guide that we have online, the step-by-step procedures. Our office will execute the contract for you, so we will take care of signing it. You don't need to put yourself in any sort of legal liability risk. We'll take care of that. If a vendor will not agree to the university's contract, like if they say, well, we're not going to sign this contract, you will not be able to use them for your event. So that's why it's helpful to get them the contract signed as early as possible so that we can make sure that you don't have to find a new vendor last minute. There's the link to the how-to guide. And then I really would just want to plug the last thing on here, which is Event Planning 101 session that Kelly will be leading. So if you're an organization that does a lot of big events and you are planning to contract a lot of people, I recommend going to Kelly's session because she'll go into details about how to go about the whole contract process, okay? All right, number 3, posting flyers on campus. As a student organization, this is one of the benefits of being a registered student club. You are allowed to post on campus, provided you follow certain guidelines. The first step for all posting is you need to get your flyers stamped at the SJ office 263 in the Union. And then depending on where you're trying to post, there's a couple of different things that you would need to do to follow their posting guidelines. For academic buildings, you generally need to make sure you're following that building specific guidelines, which really comes from the dean's office. I will mention, and it's here in yellow, that the student organization ambassadors last semester put together a really handy resource that is available under the campus link section on Involved It to You, where they've gone through and gotten all of the posting guidelines for all the various academic buildings on campus. So if you want to post, let's say in CLA, you could go to that document, read through and see, oh, here's the step-by-step things we need to do to post in CLA. As a aside, for example, this is CLA's posting is down here. Center for the Arts is posted up there, just as examples of what they might look like, okay? For HRL, they're the easiest. You just take 20 of the stamped copies over to the HRL office in Marshall Hall. It's on like the first floor. They'll put one up in every residence hall for you on campus. And the Union, there's no spaces after the Union reservation that you can put in physical flyers. There are digital screens. I have a slide for that later if you're interested in putting in digital ads on the TVs, okay? All right, number 4 is food waivers. So anytime that you are doing an event where you want to use food that is not being provided by Tiger Hospitality, which is the on-campus catering, you need to request a food waiver. Also, if it's over $100 worth of food, I'll explain that in a second. But essentially, Tiger Hospitality Catering has a contract with the university. What they have is called first right of refusal. So they can actually deny any other people from bringing food onto TU's campus. So if you're trying to do an event where you're bringing in food where it's over $100 worth of food, even if the food is donated. So like, let's say Papa John's is going to donate you, $150 worth of pizza, you would still need to fill out a food waiver. Essentially, to do a food waiver, it's a simple form. You can find it on Involved It TU, but you need to put it in at least 10 days before the event. And that does not, just because you submit the form, guarantee that will be approved. If Tiger Hospitality Catering says like, hey, we saw your request for this, but we want to provide the food instead, you'll have to go through on-campus catering. I will say they're generally very lenient, especially with like donations and stuff, but there's just no guarantees. So the sooner you get the food waivers in, the better. If you're only providing like a couple of snacks, like maybe 2 pizzas and some chips or something, that's under $100 for one of your meetings. You don't need to worry about the food waiver process, okay? Traveling off campus. So anytime your student organization is planning a trip as a part of your student organization off campus, you have to have all of your participants complete a travel liability waiver. This is really important because it makes sure a number of things, but number one, that everybody going on the trip understands there is some risk and liability for traveling off campus. You could get into a car accident. Like there's no guarantee specifically of their safety. The form can be found on Involved It TU. What you should do is before you go on the trip, turn the form into the SJ office. However, I highly encourage you to make a copy of that form because on the form, it has their emergency contact information. So let's say something happens on the trip, somebody gets stung by a bee and you're allergic and you're going to have to take them to the hospital. You could call their, emergency contact and let them know like, hey, this has happened on this trip. We want to make sure that you're aware. Or if you need their health insurance information and they're non-responsive, you'd have all of that on the form. So definitely do that, but we would keep the original copies in the SJ office for you, okay? And this is for just if a couple of members choose to go off and they're gonna go to Taco Bell off campus on their own, that's whatever. But like if you're organizing a trip, like, hey, we're all going to this music festival as a part of our music club, then that would be something you would definitely want to make sure you have the travel waivers done for. The hazing policy, the full policy is listed on the website here. I'm not going to go through every single specific thing that would fall under that, but I want to read the definition of what TU defines as hazing as any action or situation created intentionally, whether on or off campus, inflicted on persons joining a group or members of a group that a reasonable person would consider as having the potential to create mental, physical discomfort, embarrassment, harassment, ridicule without the individual's consent. And there's numbers of examples of these, including like mandated, making people eat a whole bunch of stuff, running errands for members, public humiliating stunts. Not only does it get used university policy, but it's illegal in the state of Maryland. So this is strictly forbidden, but you need to just make sure that your organization is in compliance with all your policies, that no one is being put in an unsafe or ridicule type situation. All right. Do we have special guests from OIE here? Patty, are you with us? Patricia Watson. Sorry, Patricia Bradley, I apologize. If not, I'm going to take the slide. So, okay. So, additionally, something we want to make sure that you're aware of, specifically as student leaders that are hosting, meetings, things may come up in your spaces that could fall under particularly hate crimes or bias incidents. And what we want to make sure you guys as student leaders are able to do is distinguish between what is a hate crime and what is a bias incident. The biggest thing I want to make sure that you can make sure that is that TU's expectation is if something comes up in your organization, that you're going to report it. And really quickly on this slide here, there's a number of ways you can do this. If there is an immediate emergency situation that's taking place, what we're going to ask is that you report it directly to TUPD. This 444 number is the emergency one, and they'll come in and immediately address the situation. So if there's like an active situation going on, TUPD is where you should submit it. Otherwise, you should submit it to OIIE, and they have a form on their website here that you can do it directly from the form. But if you want to talk to somebody, you can either call them, set up a meeting to go meet them up in person in the administration building, or email them at oiie@towson.edu, even if you're just not sure. But they're going to determine if a policy violation happened, their office is the one that is responsible for addressing and taking appropriate action against it. Carolyn, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just me, but I can't see the presentation anymore.
Wait, can somebody else confirm? Is it?
I can see it.
Oh, it must be my view. Apologies.
No worries. Okay. Thank you everybody for chiming in. I super appreciate that. Sorry, Carolyn, I missed your message. I'm not sure how that happened. Okay. But seeing as, is there anybody else that can't see it? Okay, we're good. I got confirmation from Carolyn. Actually, Carolyn, why don't you come back actually? Because
It's my turn.
ironically, you're literally the next slide.
Awesome. That's why I said something. I was like, I don't know what he sees. All right. Hey, everyone. Happy Tiger Tuesday. My name is Carolyn Harris. I'm the Director of Student Activities and Advisor for Student Government Association. I'm going to talk to you really quickly about some student org finance pieces, and then there's more details that'll be shared during the breakout sessions. Before I start, I'd love to also introduce Susan Ruppel and Janiyah Richardson. Susan and Janiyah, are you on the call?
Yes. Yes, we're here.
Quick intro, if you could tell us who you are since they would engage with you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Susan Ruppel. I take care of all of the finance payments for most of the orgs as well as SGA proper. I am here to help you in any way I can. Janiyah does more on the org side than I do. However, I am absolutely capable and willing to help if Janiyah is unavailable or is not in for some reason. I will also be involved on the Treasurer Workshop to discuss some of those things. So if any of you are going to be joining that session later today, I will be there as well. Nice to see everybody.
Thanks, Susan. Janiyah? We can't hear you. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. I'm not sure why. For time, I'm gonna, I'll introduce Janiyah on behalf, but her screen is on. Janiyah Richardson is the admin assistant for Student Government Association. She's usually the primary person alongside Habib, which Habib, if you're on the call, you can wave as well. There he's back there. So Habib is our graduate assistant for SGA, and the two of them are usually your first line of connection when you walk into the Student Government Association office, and they help to process your purchase requests and to place your orders and collect any relevant information for reimbursements or petty cash. I'll also note that Susan specifically helps to write the checks for your reimbursement. So she's a good, and for processing your travel. Both of them will be part of presentations later this afternoon, so you should connect with them if you need to. I'll start with sharing specifically about the purchase request form. So this is a process we've instituted in the last 2 years. Every purchase you're making for your student organization should start with this form. The purchase request form can be found on the Involved at TU page, the homepage down in the links section. It also can be found on the SGA website. It's really important that you submit the purchase request form at least 10 business days prior to when you need items or prior to your event so that the staff can support you. We ask for 10 days because we have a high volume of student groups who need our support. So we want to be sure we can help you out and buy you the things that you need or get you the resources that you need. but that usually cannot happen instantly. So we need some time to process, so make sure you're submitting those things in advance. And then for the next two pieces, they are particular resources that can be utilized when spending money. The first one is petty cash. So the petty cash process is a really wonderful opportunity and resource for students to spend money up to $50 with cash. So you don't have to use your money out of your pocket. You can utilize your org's money without spending your own first. It is a very particular process, and we want to ensure that you are not misusing any of the funds. The state makes us or requires us to follow very specific processes, so you should also follow those processes. The first thing you do is submit a purchase request. After it's approved, you come into the office to pick up your petty cash slip. It's a bright green quarter sheet. You take that slip over to the Auxiliary Business Services office in West Village Commons on the 3rd floor. It's the same office where the One Card folks are. You pick up your $50, you go do the shopping, and then you return the change and the receipt. And the receipt has to be itemized, so it has to have every single item you purchased listed out. You bring all that information back, and the Auxiliary Services office can close out the account. Please note, only the person who picked up the money can utilize the money. So you should not hand your $50 off to someone else if you're the one who picked it up. That is a big no-no. You also should not make online purchases with petty cash. So petty cash can only be used as cash. That's why you picked up the $50 in cash. So don't go deposit it into your account and then go to Amazon and buy something. You should not do that either. There's also some general things you shouldn't do. So don't buy gift cards. And I already mentioned don't do any online purchases. Additionally, another resource is reimbursement. So after you submit a purchase request and it's approved, we can reimburse you for spending money on behalf of your student organization. Reimbursements also require an itemized, detailed receipt. That means every item on your purchase needs to be listed out, and it has to be the original receipt. So if you went to Giant and bought some, groceries for something you were doing for your program, or snacks or something, you have to bring the receipt that prints out from the receipt machine at Giant. If you purchase something online, you need to print the final receipt or invoice from your online purchase. You bring all that information into the office, and Janaya or Habib will help you fill out the pink slip, and we'll process your check for reimbursement. If you are getting reimbursed for less than $50, it goes through the petty cash process, so you'll get cash back instead of a check. And then if your purchase is over $50, then we will reimburse you by check. There are really lots of opportunities for us to purchase things on your behalf so that you never have to spend money out of your pocket. If you want to do that, make sure you submit your purchase request on time and connect with our SGA finance staff early on so that they can support you. Scan copies of the original receipt. So there's a question in the chat. Should we also keep a scanned copy of the original receipt for our books? You absolutely should do that. Thank you, Kelly, for responding as well. Always keep good records. If you have more questions, email sgafinance@towson.edu, or you can come into the office and visit Janaya, Susan, or Habib. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right. And then very quickly to wrap up the rest of the top 10 here, and then we're going to send you off to your first breakout sessions. Just the minimum requirements to be an active student organization for this semester. You're doing one of them right now by being here at the Student Group Leadership Summit. So thank you for doing that to keep your organization active. The second is being sure you re-register your organization on Involved at TU. I sent information about this out over back in December. You will get many reminders. The absolute final deadline is March 1st, but you really shouldn't wait that long so that we can make sure we update the most contact information on Involved at TU so the right people are getting the emails. Abby's going to be approving those in the next week. So if you've submitted yours, you should be getting a confirmation for that. And then lastly, just involved it to you. So we went over a lot of things in this top 10, and almost every single time I was like, oh, if you look on involved it to you under campus links, you can find this, that, or the other. So this really is our #1 resource for student organizations and student org leaders. It has access to all the information that you need, including our Tiger Stripes Google document, the campus link section for our forms, and other documents. There's a student activities page and a student org resource page that has other various resources. I mentioned the document that the student organization ambassadors created for hosting. All of that stuff is listed there, and then all the contact information for our student organizations. The big thing to note is whoever is listed as the primary contact on Involved It To You for your page, that is the person that will always get the emails from myself, Abby, Amarachi, and the student org ambassadors. So it's really important that that person is the proper person up to date. So if you do the re-registration form that I mentioned on the last number, that'll make sure that you're good to go for the future. All right, and with that, we're going to break to breakout sessions 1. So please remember, we're going to come back here at 4 o'clock for the closing. This QR code will get you to the links if you need it. Abby, if you could just put the link one more time in the chat for the event. If you stay in this session where you are right now, it will be Tiger Stripes, and I'll be getting that presentation ready to go. The next sessions begin at 2:05, so you have a couple minutes to make your way over to the next sessions. And thank you guys so much.